And so it all begins. Democrats wanted this moment. They were convinced weaponizing investigations would hurt the president. So they wanted all the smoke. They wanted the chaos. They wanted the headlines. They wanted all the spectacle. But now it's already beginning to blow back directly in their faces. Because while they spent years screaming accountability and full transparency, the newest Epstein files are exposing something they thought they could hide. Their own names. And one of the names that has already popped up is Hakeem Jeffries, aka Walmart Obama, Temu Obama, Dollar Tree Obama, or as they were calling him back in 2013, I guess, Brooklyn Barack. According to these recently surfaced Epstein files back in 2013, this was already 5+ years after the Florida investigation, where eventually he pleaded guilty. Hakeem Jeffries and his campaign team reached out to Jeffrey Epstein to talk about how they could raise money. I just want you to let that settle in for a second, because Hakeem Jeffries and the Democrats this entire time have been trying to paint themselves as the moral authority in America. But now they're getting dragged by receipts tied to one of the most infamous predators of our lifetime. They demanded the investigation. They insisted everything come out. Well, everything is starting to come out. And this is just the beginning. And so we're breaking it all down, showing you how both sides are presenting their case and what it means for the people caught in the middle.
Sunlight, of course, is the best disinfectant. And we've maintained from the very beginning that the American people just deserve the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as it relates to the Epstein files.
Another email shows Democrat fundraisers invited Epstein to an event or to meet privately with Hakeem Jeffries as part of their 2013 effort to win a majority. So Hakeem Jeffries' campaign solicited money from Jeffrey Epstein. That's what we found in the last document batch. The files underscore why former President Trump must appear for his deposition. We've subpoenaed him. To date, the Democrats have done nothing to help us secure his appearance. I support full transparency. The Oversight Committee will continue to work to get the truth to the American people and to get justice for the victims. That's our goal of this investigation. With that, I yield back.
Dollar Tree Obama has some explaining to do, because by 2013, it was no longer a secret who Jeffrey Epstein was. And yet he's trying to reach out and have meetings and connect on how Epstein can donate to his campaign. Dear Jeffrey, we are thrilled to announce that we are working with Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, one of the rising stars in New York congressional delegation, sometimes referred to as Brooklyn's Barack. He's a stout supporter of President Obama and a progressive voice for the people of New York City. New York One did a profile piece about his work in the vitally important budget and judiciary committees in Washington. Hakeem is committed to electing a Democrat majority in 2014 and is encouraging his friends to participate in the DSCC fundraising dinner with President Obama this coming Monday night. Shoot us an email or give us a call if you would like to get involved with the dinner or would like to get an opportunity to get to know Hakeem better. He's an impressive guy and who will be a progressive voice in New York politics for years to come. I wonder what Jeffries would actually have to say if the liberal media questioned him on why his campaign was reaching out to Epstein after the fact, where it had already come out on who this man was and what he was about. But I'm sure it'll just be more of the same, dodging the questions and avoiding actually answering anything, the same way he did here with another Democrat when he was questioned at a press conference. Take a listen.
Why should Americans trust you and House Democrats on the Jeffrey Epstein files when one of your own, Congresswoman Plaskett, was found to be texting with Jeffrey Epstein during a hearing, getting information from him, using that in her questioning during a congressional hearing, and at one point he tells her, "Good job."
This is a bipartisan effort to make sure that, consistent with what the survivors have requested, that there's full and complete transparency, and every single predator who may be in those Justice Department files doesn't escape accountability. Thanks.
And so, yeah, there you have that. And it's just interesting because first, when it was thought that the files were going to hurt Trump more than anyone else, it was all the truth must come out. the whole truth, nothing but the truth, the entire truth. But now that is actually backfiring, and Democrats are being caught in the crossfires. All of a sudden, it's the generic answer that actually answers nothing. And Stacey Plaskett, the delegate from the U.S. Virgin Islands, well, when she was given an opportunity, she didn't really do much better with defending herself. Take a listen.
At the beginning of that hearing, the ranking member, Jim Jordan, had the disrespect to Elijah Cummings, may he rest in peace and his name be a memory, after not allowing Mr. Jordan to shut the committee hearing down. And I turned to Mr. Jordan and told him to have respect for the chair and to basically shut up. And that moment went viral. And I began to get innumerable texts from friends, from foes, from constituents about what was happening in that hearing. And I got a text from Jeffrey Epstein, who at the time was my constituent, who was not public knowledge at that time that he was under federal investigation, and who was sharing information with me. Now, I heard recently from someone that I was seeking advice from him. Let me tell you something. I don't need to get advice on how to question anybody from any individual.
So let's address her statement, because politicians, they depend on your ignorance. And Democrats, they just don't rely on it. They're counting on it. They bank on the public not paying attention, not connecting the dots, and not remembering the basic facts. So let's break this down properly. Number one, by 2019, Jeffrey Epstein was already a convicted offender involving a minor. That wasn't rumor. That wasn't an allegation. That was a matter of public record. Democrats knew that. Every politician knew that. Anyone remotely plugged into politics knew that. Number two, and this is exactly why I say Democrats survive on public ignorance, because the receipts tell a completely different narrative than what she's trying to sell. We have the text messages. They're all over the internet. The actual communication. We can literally see her asking Epstein for information and then turn around and use that information in her questioning as if she just magically knew it.
And I'll take it under advisement now, and it's not a problem in terms of attorney-client privilege. Yes, I will turn it over.
You, as my friend Mr. Meadows pointed out, misled this committee even today in a written submission that contradicted your testimony. You have suggested you are going to review that. Are you going to review it in our next break to correct the record, yes or no?
Yes.
Question, you helped out the president's campaign or were involved in the campaign as a representative, as a spokesman, even in your words today. It was your idea for the campaign dating back to 2011. Is that accurate, yes or no?
Yes.
2011 is a year that sticks in my head. For it's the year my daughter was born, and it was the year I was diagnosed with cancer. I was not then pushing for Donald Trump to be president. I was fighting cancer.
You've mentioned some individuals to my colleague from New York, Ms. Connolly, and also in your testimony about Mr. Weisenberg and other individuals, Ms. Rona. Who are those individuals? Are they with the Trump organization?
They
and
are.
Are there other people that we should be meeting with?
So Alan Weisselberg is the chief financial officer.
Uh-huh. You got to quickly give us as many names as you can so we can get to them.
Yes, ma'am.
As Ms. Rona, what is Ms. Rona's position?
Rona Graff is Mr. Trump's executive assistant.
And would she be able to corroborate many of the statements that you've made here?
Yes, her office is directly next to his, and she's involved in a lot that went on.
Yeah, so I don't know what she's talking about, but unless she's just counting on people being that dumb because it's literally laid out right there in front of them, this isn't innocent. This isn't a coincidence. This isn't detached. That's coordination. That's her texting and then using those text messages literally in her questioning. But she said she didn't need any advice for her questioning. Didn't look like that to me. And now get this, you guys have to, you got to hear this one. After months of trying to implicate Trump, Hakeem Jeffries now thinks you shouldn't jump to conclusions, his words, about Stacey Plaskett, a woman of great intelligence, a woman of great integrity. You can't make this up. Take a listen.
We believe in transparency. We believe in accountability. We believe in due process. That's the opposite of what is happening on the floor today. And let me be very clear about Stacey Plaskett. She's a woman of great intelligence and a woman of great integrity. And she deserves better than what she's receiving from House Republican extremists. She deserves the opportunity to be heard. She deserves due process. She deserves the ability to make her case. Not to be prosecuted by pettifoggers, playing lawyer on the floor of the House of Representatives. Google that if you don't know what it means.
But none of this was ever about the victims. It was always about how they can get Trump. And now it's backfiring on Democrats with people like Larry Summers, who served as Secretary of the Treasury under Clinton and the Director of the National Economic Council under Obama, who is now deciding to step back and take a pause from his public appearances after the latest batch of Epstein files came out, indicating him and his communications. Take a listen.
Tonight, Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren, a former Harvard professor herself, is calling on the school to cut ties with the former university president and current faculty member Larry Summers. That's because Senator Warren says that Summers cannot be trusted, that's her quote, after new details emerged regarding his close relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. All of this revealed in last week's release of Epstein's private emails. Larry Summers served as Bill Clinton's Treasury Secretary, and in Barack Obama's administration, he was the director of the National Economic Council. These new emails revealed comments that Summers made as he also sought out dating advice from Jeffrey Epstein. That includes the morning of March 17th, 2019. Let's see these emails here where Summers and Epstein were exchanging multiple emails debating Summers and whether or not he should send a note to a romantic interest. Epstein argued to Summers that it would be, quote, bad form. Summers wrote back, quote, why bad form? Supposed to be face-to-face? To which Epstein replied, you care very much for this person. You might want to demonstrate that. A note does the very opposite. Now, the reason that exchange is notable and that we're pointing it out is because of when it happened. It was just 4 months before that exchange that the Miami Herald had published an exhaustive investigation detailing Jeffrey Epstein's abuse of underage girls. They continued to communicate, though, for the next several months. That includes on July 5th, 2019, when Larry Summers sent Jeffrey Epstein an update from his vacation on Cape Cod. The next day, July 6, 2019, was when Jeffrey Epstein was arrested for sex trafficking crimes. Now, tonight, Larry Summers told CNN in a statement that he is going to continue to teach at Harvard, but he will be stepping back from his other public commitments, saying in a statement that he takes full responsibility for the misguided decision to continue communicating with Mr. Epstein. My political sources tonight are Democratic strategist Alencia Johnson and Republican strategist David Urban. And obviously, you know, it's worth noting, Alencia, that Senator Warren and Larry Summers have clashed before in the past over policy issues and whatnot. But her saying, you know, this is someone who is very involved in Democratic politics, was reportedly going to be very involved in them doing a version of Project 2025 for Democrats. She's saying that the school needs to cut ties with him entirely. Do you agree with her?
I absolutely do agree with her, and not just because I worked for her in her presidential primary, but because, as you explained, the timing of this. It's one thing if Larry Summers was communicating with Jeffrey Epstein before the big investigation from the Miami Herald, but it's another, and he said he didn't know about it because there have been instances of that, right? Someone is charged for an egregious crime and people around him don't know anything about it. But this was very public. It was all over our national news. People in politics were paying attention to it and deep diving because of his ties to a lot of political figures. And so it is problematic that he remained in contact with him. And we don't see any evidence of him even acknowledging how wrong Jeffrey Epstein was. And so I agree with Senator Warren because if we think about his involvement, not only in Democratic politics, he is also a teacher at Harvard. And there are probably young women in his class. And I would be concerned about, you know, whether or not he has the integrity to continue to be in those positions. I'm not going to sit here and say anything's going to happen to his students, but it is concerning that you would be okay with someone who has these accusations and you still continue to be involved in a teaching capacity.
So here's the bottom line. Because this entire time, the narrative has been pushed in one direction, towards Trump, towards distraction, towards whatever they can do, Democrats, to try and make him look unfit to lead, to be the president. But the more these files come out, the more we're beginning to see things for what they really are. And right now, that story's telling us that Democrats were comfortable texting for dating advice asking information for questioning, and looking for financial gifts and donations. And like I said from the very beginning, it's only just begun. The people who try to pretend to stand on the moral high ground are now being pulled into the very scandal they tried to weaponize. And so we'll just see what happens next. Drop your comments down below. I appreciate when you guys chime in. As always, best way you can show your support and that you enjoy the content is by smashing that thumbs up. That tells me you enjoyed the video. And subscribe to the channel for more breakdowns like this. And as always, until next time.